But then there are some, they want to break out. They want to say, no, I can't do this anymore. I had enough. I can't live in this material world. There must be something more. Welcome to today's topic, spirituality. Spirituality, for most people, is actually known from extraordinary, esoteric groups. But also, maybe some people know it from official religions. Let's first of all look at these two aspects of spirituality. Every normal religion has the aspect of spirituality. That's a very ordinary thing. There's nothing wrong with that. Even if some people believe that spirituality is just for, monks or like people which are not really living in the world, which are more or less like outsiders or nerds or so. But it's an official path and an official section in every religion. And paradoxically, in most sects, actually not. They are more on the surface. Sects are like striving for, not really for a god, but more for wrong things. Like they're praying to kind of an outer thing, or they believe that the paradise is a place on earth, is a material place, and they are more on the surface, on the material world. They don't consider spirituality actually. This is more a point from the official religions, what is good. But what is spirituality here? As the name says, spirituality has something to do with a spirit. There is the one side where it's kind of a higher spirit, which, for example, in Christianity is called Holy Spirit. And on the other side, there are people, they also have a soul, which is kind of a spirit. So you can see there are several aspects of spirit, and therefore spirituality is so important, because it is about, these sections in religion are about the connection between the spirit of the humans with kind of a higher spirit, whatever you name it. It differs from religion to religion. Some believe in kind of a god, which is kind of a bigger spirit, and others believe there is no God, but they think there is a development to enlightenment, and in enlightenment, your spirit also grows, and therefore some also compare it and say, when you are enlightened, this is the same like the union with God, because it takes place in the higher self. And so this is also said in psychology from Carl Jung, that the union, the contemplatio, or in English contemplatio, is or takes place in the higher self and is reachable through meditation, or in Christianity words, through contemplation. And therefore this union and the spiritual aspects are taught in most cases in the mystical branch, the mystical section. Mysticals talk about spirituality. Mysticals talk about the union with God. But mysticals are not far away from the world and like running away. We don't want this material world. They actually, first of all, they turn around and meditate more and don't enjoy the world so much. But through meditation, they develop lots of energy, and then they come back in most cases, and then they do something good for the world. So they live still in both worlds. They still live in this material world and do good things, good deeds. But first of all, they meditate to connect with this higher areas, spirit, whatever you name it. And then they find the purpose, and then they know what they have to do. And then they bring it in the world. It's the opposite from what I have said in the other video, when people first of all try to copy Jesus through good deeds. What is actually good but not that good. It's better to first find yourself, to first go in your depths and develop, and then you come back and then you do your work, because then you know what you really have to do. Mysticals have nothing to do with magic, even if in some esoteric areas people say that is mystical and magical, and maybe because of their high energy, there are some wonders, and there have been some wonders in history. But this is not magic, because in the wonders, it's different from magic, because in the wonders, this is an act from God, which happened through this connected person, but that's actually not magic. The ordinary religions all have a mystical branch. For example, in Christianity, they have several mysticals like John of the Cross, Meister Eckhart, Therese from Avila is one female, and there are also several females too. And in Islam, it's the Sufis. The Sufis, for example, Rumi is a very big writer and philosopher, which wrote very interesting and beautiful, lovely poems. I really can recommend it. In the Jewish religion, there is the mystical branches called Kabbalah. This is also very interesting. I don't know an author for now, but yeah, when you Google it, you will find some. In Hinduism, it is the Upanishads are kind of secret books where this is similar to Kabbalah, not the content, but it is kind of, it was said, this secret that just very few people can get it in the past, but now is open for all. And there are very interesting aspects which are very mystical and which really can bring you further, which contain basic aspects to explain the big picture, which are really interesting to learn more why we are here, why is this all working, and what's this all about. And so this is like in these books like Upanishads, Kabbalah, or the Sufis. The Sufism has lots of wisdom about that, and in Christianity, these mysticals. Let's now come to this extraordinary esoteric groups. They also talk about spirituality, mysticism, and so on, but in a different way. They also, yes, sometimes they consider it, and sometimes they also take aspects from religions and mix it up with their stuff, but they are also sometimes very material and mix spiritual things with material. And I will give some examples in a minute, but there are also non-religious esoteric groups, like I don't know, maybe you remember in the 1980s or so, the New Age movement. They were like, I think they were not that religious, but also talking from spirituality and so. But there are even crazy ones, not from the New Age, but other groups. They are like with the tarot cards and making predictions for the future and this creepy stuff, And here the problems with the extraordinary esoteric groups begins. But let's first briefly define esoteric in general, because actually, and defined from philosophy, esoteric is nothing more than the opposite of exoteric. And this is the same with the personalities introverted and extroverted. Esoteric just means there's something inside of you, and exoteric is the outer world. So esoteric is, spirituality and what has things which have to do with your soul or with your consciousness. And, this is actually, when you see it just as a term and not as extraordinary groups or so, it is nothing more than wanted just to say that there is something inside of you which is the opposite from the external world. And this is on a very low basis esoteric. But they made groups from it. They made movements from it and took this word esoteric, therefore it has now such a negative shadow. But considered from the soberly level, you can also say religions are esoteric. And some people consider this in that way. The normal religions, the official religions, are actually, when you see it just as the definition of something from inside, which is the opposite from exoteric, then religions are actually also esoteric. Psychology is esoteric, neuroscience, but what is inside and what is all about the human consciousness and even about higher consciousness is actually esoteric when you define it just very pure and not considered as extraordinary groups. So the term itself is not that bad. But let's now come to that extraordinary groups and their creepy stuff, because that's not good. Okay, I want to start with a positive thing. They are also about healing. And I have heard from some people there is in in the near where my parents live is a woman, like, which is kind of a, white witch, which does good things, which does healing, which can heal through quantum field. And they say it really works. Nobody understands, even very trustful or people which strongly believe in religions, even those often don't believe in wonders or so. But some also, which are very strongly believers, also believe in wonders. But also there are some, they are very, Christian or very religious, but don't believe in wonders. But even those are astounded when they hear or when they see such healing wonders. And this, I don't know why, but this exists. And this is kind of a spiritual thing, what esoteric people do. And when it is just for good things, that's okay. But I think there are maybe also people, when they have the same might, let's say kind of might, or wherever it comes from, and you use it for bad things, then it's not so good. Because I have seen here on YouTube lots of videos about manifestation. They call it manifestation. And they can really, it seems as if some people can really manifest things. That means if they have a wish and they want it, that it is fulfilled, they can manifest it, like praying that it really happens, and then it happens. But it's not about praying. It's maybe some can reach it through praying, others reach it through any rituals, I don't know. But there are several videos about manifestation, and I think that's not so good, even if that exists and even if that works, like the healing wonders too. But when it exists, then you can also use it for bad things. And therefore, it's not so good that they present such methods so that everyone can use it. So maybe bad people could also use it if it works. And they could manifest negative things, which brings them advantages, but maybe which for that reason kills a person or whatever. I don't know. And therefore, I think this manifestation stuff and tarot cards, and they say, and they predict the future. I have already named it. They predict futures to people. That's another point. At this point I see, I don't know if this is true. I think this is even more creepy stuff, and it just I think it can make people frightened. It can cause anxieties when you tell, for example, and even if it works and they do it serious and they say to the person his or her future, and this is a negative future, then this person will become frightened and will get anxieties. And so this is not a good thing to know about the future, even if it works. So this is useless to tell someone the future. And if it not works, it is even worse. So because you tell a wrong future, actually this person maybe has a good future, but this witch or whatever people, what are that for people, I don't know, this witch tells to the person future is negative, even if it is not, and then the person believes it and is full of anxiety for nothing, and that's not good. And the last aspect, which is a general problem in every esoteric groups or every esoteric extraordinary movements, is that they hang around in their own world and they don't reach the highest targets, because the spiritual world is way more better than the material world. Most people live just in a material world. They just have their material stuff and they just go to work and they just suffer from the normal stuff, and they don't ask the main and basic questions which are important for life and which can maybe end sufferings and can increase the life quality. They don't consider that. They are just like followers, but followers in the everyday life. They just do what they are taught, and when they suffer, then they try to bear it and everything's fine. But then there are some, they want to break out. They want to say, no, I can't do this anymore. I had enough depressions and I can't live in this material world. There must be something more. And they start to ask the basic questions, and they start to ask why I am actually here. Why are we here? What is this all about? And then they maybe can come out of this material world and find the spiritual world and find there is something more, which is not visible, which is actually there, but we don't see it. And then when you have this shift in this life, this will increase the quality of the life a lot. And then the problem is, and what I have seen at many people, that they don't find out there, they don't find the highest status because they love their new life, their spiritual life so much, especially when they are healers or have kind of a new ability, which maybe they had earlier also, but they found out that they have it suddenly, and then they are proud to have it and to heal others and help others. And so, but they hang around, and that's the same problem with the official religions too. Most people find kind of a new world, but it's still this world. It's still, but it's better than the material world, the spiritual aspect, but it's just a little more wealth, but they can't find the highest wealth. They are still in this world, even if it is then now more spiritual for them, but they are still suffering because they are still in duality. They can still suffer from when they suddenly become ill, old, or die. And to end the sufferings, you must find out. You must find your higher consciousness, but they are with their spirituality and with their spiritual life still in the human consciousness. There are even movements, they are not that spiritual. They are just like, yeah, a little spiritual, not with healing, and that's too much for most people. There are just young modern people which just want to eat vegan food and to save the animals and increase their life quality, but this is just on a material level and a little bit in spiritual level, and they do things like rituals or so, but not not hard rituals, just like smoking a pipe, not with drugs. In some cases, of course, yes, but most cases just to have another lifestyle, a spiritual lifestyle. This is just kind of a new lifestyle which they have developed, but they forget the highest target. They are still human in their human consciousness, not developing, just developing on the surface, because they say now we eat vegan food and we don't eat animals anymore, and then they think they have developed and that's enough for them. But it is not, because it's not a target. It's just a step. And that's the problem. And that's the problem with the spirituality. And that's, for me, the most and the biggest problem. The other problems with, like witches, which predict the future to people also, that are not that much, not so many people which works this way. And this is just, very, very extraordinary, and very less people, they do such creepy stuff. But I can see that lots of young people have like it's not an official movement. There are several small, and they just develop to a more spiritual life, but they just focus to have this spiritual and they also have forgotten this point earlier, and they love to feel more the life. They become more sensitive. It's not just that they behave sensitive and don't want to kill animals anymore and so for eating, and they change their eating style, but they also become more sensitive because they avoid alcohol and all that stuff. And then when they are so sensitive, they want to feel more the life, and they believe that thinking is bad, and thinking is, some of them really grasp the point that the mind is dual and we have the problems from the mind and this negativity, but they lose their self in feeling too much, because they fall in a kind of an opposite. When you say thinking and feeling are opposites, are actually not, but they think, okay, thinking is bad, we must be in the here and now, we must feel more. But they don't come to their true senses, where they really feel when they are in higher consciousness. They just are in their emotions. They abolish thoughts and say too much thinking is not good, we must learn to feel more, but they are lost in their emotions then. And that's the biggest problem in the modern people, when they say emotions are better than thinking. That's actually also a problem which maybe comes from duality. And there is just one way out, and this is meditation, but not meditation per se, because, you know, this could also use for wrong things. It's just methods. There are some better methods where you can find out and not identify so much with this body, not identify so much with this personality, which they gave you with, you know, because they said one day 20 or 30 years ago, how old, whatever you are, they said you are this name and you are that, and then school came and they say even more and conditioned even more what you are, what you have to do, what you have to strive for, and all that conditions is one day a personality which works in this world, and that is what you have to give up for finding the higher consciousness, and that is the highest target, that you more and more give up this personality and not just switch from thoughts to emotions, which even entangle you more in that illusion. And this is a trap what young modern spiritual people do. And I want to warn you with this video that you don't go in this trap too. There are lots of groups and maybe some of them have also influenced you. Therefore, be careful. Don't trust anyone because he says, oh, spirituality is good. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Don't trust anyone. Even don't trust me. Even don't trust, even Buddha said, don't trust anyone. Don't trust any religion. Don't trust because people just say to you. Don't trust what they say. Explore it on your own. He says, do not believe in anything simply because you have heard it. Do not believe in anything simply because it is spoken and rumored by many. Do not believe in anything simply because it is found written in your religious books. Question it. Go to the priest and question it. Do not believe in anything merely on the authority of your teachers and elders. Do not believe in traditions because they have been handed out for many generations. But after observation and analysis, when you find that anything agrees with reason and is conducive to the good and benefit of one and all, then accept it and live up to it. That means, first of all, explore it. When someone comes to you and says your spiritual stuff and that's all better, don't believe anything. Explore it. Try to find it out on your own. Try to find any evidence. Maybe science can also give little evidence until now. No, they can't explain everything at the moment, but they are developing each day. And maybe they can give little evidence until now. Like here on this channel, when I take the depth psychology and the neuroscience to explain things. Explore it, don't believe anything, and have a good life. See you next time.